Hey everybody, Bob Babbitt here. Welcome to CAF's Heroes of Sport. Each week you'll meet some of the world's most amazing challenged athletes. This week we have a world record holder. He just became the first quadriplegic to go over 200 miles on a recumbent tandem. Mr. Lance Weir joins us. Lance, how the heck are you doing?
I'm doing great, Bob. Thanks for having me.
So first of all, you were planning to do this thing in December, and just the logistics of doing the 200 miles, and talk a little bit about just how overwhelming. How far had you gone before that you'd done a 200 mile in one day, or 215? I think you finally ended up doing
something around there. We made sure we got the 200 by going a little extra. I've been on the couple of rides down the coast with the $1 Million Challenge ride. I think there was a couple of 120-mile days. Over a span of 24 hours a few years back, I did 250 miles in a 24-hour period, but I've never done 200 miles at one time. So that was a box that I really wanted to check, and a lot of awesome friends came together, and we made it happen.
Well, and I was checking the weather that weekend, and it was like it's gonna be 30 degrees, the wind's gonna be 40 miles an hour. I'm like, oh, I'm sure they're gonna reschedule and go another weekend. What the heck? Talk a little bit about just the fact that this was gonna be not just 200 miles is tough enough. When you're talking those conditions, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, we had talked about this so far out that we wanted to do it in the winter when it wasn't hot out there, but we knew that there was a chance there might be some winds. So we watched, just like you did, we were watching the weather forecast, and it had a little cloud over that day, over the sunshine. So we thought, hopefully we won't get too much wind. And when I drove out there, I was telling you earlier, when I drove out, just got over the mountain about 2 o'clock in the morning, and we had no wind. And then about 4 o'clock in the morning, all the guys started saying, man, if it was going to be as windy down here as it was on that hill back there, we were in trouble. So we started with no wind. And about lap 2, the winds came, and they were really, really strong, Bob.
Oh my God. Now, did you have multiple pilots, or did you and your pilot do the whole thing together?
I had 4 pilots. The first pilot was Matt Teague, big CAF supporter, just an awesome all-around guy, like all of them. He did the first 4 or 5 laps. Then I had a couple more fill in, and then finished it off with Andy Boyd, who a lot of my miles started with years ago. And so it was really nice to be able to end that with the person that I've started all this with. Took 15 hours. About 10 of it was in the wind. But it just made it all more gratifying when it was over. If you looking back, you never thought we would have done it in that wind, but and to have done it under those conditions makes it even that much more special.
Well, and especially when you look back and see how far you've come, right? What year were you paralyzed?
My injury was August 8th, 1993. So almost gonna be 28 years this August.
And you were kayaking, and are you canoeing? And the boat got stuck. You just put your hat came off. You put your head in to get the hat, and hit a rock, and you shattered C5.
Shattered C5.
And you were living where at the time?
Back home in Arkansas, a very rural area, small town. Loved home, but I was lacking in opportunities and resources, and there was so many things I was fighting. Swim stream there for sure. And but yeah, now here I am, 27 years post injury, and probably in as good as health as I've ever been in my life, and as good a shape as I've ever been in my life. And that's a direct reflection on you, Bob.
No, it's a direct reflection on a gentleman by the name of Nico Marcolongo saying, hey, Marine, I need you to go up to Camp Pendleton, and I need you to find a sport that you like. and
That's
going over and realizing maybe cycling isn't going to be it. Maybe riding a bike on my own isn't going to be it, but you found air rifle.
That's right. Yeah, it was. Nico gave me a call one day, said, Marine, get out on Camp Pendleton. They're having this competition. You're a competitor. You can't tell Nico no. So I got the car, went out to Camp Pendleton, had no idea what I was getting into, but that changed my life, no doubt. I found the sport of shooting, which ultimately led to me finding a way to cycle, and here we are. But shooting was very special. To be able to get back into that sport and to do that again was really, really special. And I did that for about 5 years competitively and coached it, and very thankful for that opportunity that Nico provided for me. It's changed my life.
8 gold medals at Marine Corps trials, Warrior Games. Then when you first were invited up to $1 Million Challenge, 620-mile ride down the coast, there wasn't a thought of you riding. You were just going to hang out, right?
The first year, I just went up there to be around everybody and to see it. And truthfully, in my head, I wasn't thinking quite glass half full versus half empty. And I just didn't see how that was going to work. Wow, that's just a lot of miles. And I had never been on a bike before. So the concept of me doing that, just, I couldn't wrap my head around it. But, when you're surrounded by people like that, so many awesome people that want to make things happen and get things done, eventually it happened.
It happens. Well, and the cool part was, I love how technology becomes part of the game, right? Because you've got to figure out, how do we make a tandem hand cycle that actually doesn't weigh 4,000 pounds, and we can ride it down the coast, not stationary, not in my living room, but ride it down the coast. And that was a little trial by error, right? The first bike you had, I think you went a block of the 620 miles before the thing broke down.
Yeah, when they shot the gun for the ride to start, before you knew it, everybody was out of sight, and we were just stuck in the middle of traffic in downtown San Francisco. And the next thing you know, we just break the chain. And I was with Andy, who I mentioned a minute ago.
Yeah.
I had been on that bike literally 5 minutes, and the chain breaks, and Andy turns around and he goes, "Well, what do you think so far?" And I remember having the biggest smile on my face, thinking I just rode my bike a mile down through traffic in San Francisco. I said, this is the most awesome day ever. And here we were, stuck on the side of the road, had to ultimately call the mechanic, got it fixed. Eventually we got back on the bike again for a few more miles. But my first day, I think we might have ridden 10 miles. And here we are now doing 200 milers.
And you were hooked.
Yeah, very
that
much.
10 miles was. So that first year, how much did you end up riding?
That first year, I did a little math, and I thought, for me to make this competitive and hard, I've got to get 200 miles over 7 days.
Yeah.
So every day in our head, we were thinking, where do we put the bike on the ground here so that we can finish with this many miles today? There was a lot of calculation going on that first year to try to make things happen. And ultimately, we finished in La Jolla Shores on our 200th mile that first year. So we were able to achieve our goal.
My favorite was, I think it was Bill Walton who reached out to UCSD and said, "Okay, we need a new recumbent for Lance here, and it's got to be way lighter." So it became an engineering project for those guys to build something and then Bill Holland ended up doing 1,000 welds or whatever the heck it was to get this thing. What was the difference between that first bike and the second bike, or the final bike?
Gosh, it's like being in a jet airplane now. When you think back to being on that first bike, it was just so heavy. It weighed over 80 pounds. It was 14 foot long. It broke in so many different places all the time. We were fixing things as much as we were riding that bike. And after a few years of that, I think Bill saw that I loved being on a bike.
Yeah.
So he helped put the team together, got an incredible team of people together, and they built an incredible bike. It's one of a kind. It's beautiful. It's fast. It's safe. Yeah. So now we're going from 20 miles in a day to 200.
The thing that I don't think people understand is during this whole COVID time, when people were isolated. I mean, you're a guy who can relate to isolation because as a quadriplegic, it's hard to do a lot of stuff on your own. How tough was this period for you where you weren't able to go ride and be with your friends and do the things you love to do?
Yeah, it was really hard. For 10 years now, I've ridden down the coast on the $1 Million Challenge, and it was something that we always, that I always personally look forward to and train for. And
Yeah.
We didn't get to do that this year. But on top of that, having that bike created a family around me during this time. I can't tell you how many times I'd walk out my door and see 2 or 3 former MDC riders at my doorstep asking me to see how I'm doing, if I needed anything. So the ripple effect of me riding a bike the first time in 2011 has just turned into something that's truly special, and I don't know where I'd be without it. All the friends that helped me get through this, it's special.
So the MDC riders and CF, that's become part of the family.
Very much so. If I looked at my phone right now, Bob, and looked at my past 6 or 8 calls, I can bet you that over 50% of those calls are somebody CAF related.
That is so cool. So how many people were out there in Palm Desert to join you on this excursion?
I had 5 pilots, and then I had about 6 pushers that were there all day long, and probably had about 6 or 7 pushers come for a little bit part of the day. So roughly, I would say at one time out there, my group probably had 15 bikes on the road, cruising around Borrego Springs and 40-mile-an-hour winds. We were the only people out there on the bike, for sure.
And it's not like those roads are the smoothest thing in the world.
Oh no, there was one section that was really rough, and I remember when I went across it the first time, I thought, man, I've got to do that 11 more times.
That's like the worst thing when you're out there doing something like that. You mentally, you get to a point where it's like, oh my God, I'm only a quarter of the way done. And you got to get that crap out of your head and go, all right, I'm a quarter of the way done. Right.
Yeah, it was, like I said, I've been 120 miles before. Cody Stevenson, who helped build the bike with Holland Cycles, told me, he goes, a lot of people can do 100, a lot of people can do 120, and you can usually push it to the 150. He goes, but the 200 mark is a completely different animal. And roughly about mile 130, 140, my arms hurt so bad, Bob. I didn't know whether or not, if they were to get any worse, there was no way I could continue that ride. And we got it worked on. And as we were leaving, I thought, well, I'm going to do one more lap. I'll make a decision when we get back from this lap. And then I got through it. I worked through it. All that, all that soreness and that pain slowly started to dull. And we were able to finish those last 50, 60 laps. And there was a point where I really didn't know whether or not I'd be able to finish it.
So what's next? You're one of those goal setting type of guys. I'm sure you've got something else on your sleeve. We talking 300 miles? What are we talking?
That was a test to kind of see what my body could take and what I could handle. There's definitely something coming. I don't know if, I'd love to do race across the West from here to Durango.
Yeah.
I do think that is a realistic possibility for me. Maybe the Hoodoo 500 in St. George, Utah that's a 500-mile ride that I think that I could do possibly. So we've got a couple of things on the burner there. We're trying to figure out when and where we can do it.
Now you're a pioneer, my man. I mean, right now you're doing things that no other quadriplegic has ever done. So when you look at it, and there's going to be other guys and other gals who are looking at what you're doing and are going to go, well, wait, if Lance can do it, I can do it. Is that part of the motivation here, to show people where they can get to?
You know, it is special to know that maybe I am doing something that could bring some smiles and good times to somebody else with my similar injury. You know, C5 quadriplegic. You know, can be a tough road sometimes. You know, and
Yeah.
It's nice to have some things to look forward to. And it does feel special knowing that maybe I'm creating something that somebody with my disability might be able to enjoy down the road.
So do you remember the first time you were able to ride Big Sur?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I think I got to speak about it the night after we did that ride in the Big Sur. I had driven the coast one time before and thought, wow, what a most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life. Never thinking that I would see it from a bike. And so to do that without the sound of a motor, either my power chair or a car, to be able to go up and down those hills out there and experience that from a bike. Yeah, I think there's a video of it, of us topping Bixby Bridge that first year, and there's a lot of smiles. There's a lot.
What's your favorite CAF moment?
My favorite CAF moment. It would be that day, topping Bixby Bridge Hill.
Yeah.
Looking at that hill from the bridge and seeing how far off that was, and you know, just saying yes, you know, just giving it a shot. You know, I who knows? I didn't know whether I was going to achieve it or fail or what, but I knew that if I didn't try, I'd live with that, not knowing, and I didn't want to do that. So when we got to the top of that hill and we topped that climb, it was pretty special.
I love it. Hey, Lance, we love having you part of the CAF family and Operation Rebound family. What you have brought to CAF is something very magical. It's really been, it's such a cool journey to watch, to know where you came from, knowing that there were points where, you know, you were angry and bitter and you felt dead, even though you were alive, and you're living in a place that really is not the most accessible place in the world, and coming here to San Diego and really reinventing yourself. It's been a real treat to watch that journey.
Well, Bob, and I was able to do it only because of you guys. You guys gave me an opportunity to live a rich and fulfilling life, and I feel like I'm doing that right now, and I can't thank you enough.
Lance Weir has been our guest. This is Heroes of Sport, and Lance is the first quadriplegic to go over 200 miles, 215 to be exact, on a tandem hand cycle. Lance, you are the best, bud. Thanks so much for taking time.
Thank you, Bob.
Lance Weir has been our guest, everybody. Again, this is Heroes of Sport. We'll catch you next time.